Hello there and welcome to my reaction discussion, kinda, to a video called Baldur's Gate. It's immediately off the rails. It's Baldur's Gate, not Baldur's Gate. It's pronounced in Russian, whatever. Baldur's Gate 3 is way too good, apparently. And I'm gonna guess this is about the developers that are crying on Twitter so people would not expect Baldur's Gate or quality of their game the same the Baldur's Gate 3 quality is, which is an incredibly bad take, I think. Just congratulate Larian on making the game. It's an extremely successful game, extremely well-made game. Uh, don't preemptively say, "Oh, our game's gonna be terrible in comparison." That's it. That's just stupid. But whatever. Um, let's see if that is about that or not. Like, subscribe, become a member, let's begin, I guess. I don't know. This is derailed fast.
This is the Dark Urges man here, and today I want to take you down by the river. Larian Studios has lit the internet on fire with
Okay, I hope this is loud enough for you.
One that gives Super Seducer a run for its money. By all accounts, Baldur's Gate 3 is a slam dunk success, and it's now the highest rated PC game on Metacritic ever. There's a lot of games on PC. It is
there are, yes.
Top 10 spots for most
That's the platform that has
Steam.
the most
on
games.
August 6th, apparently the game accounted for 28% of total player time on Steam. Pardon my
That's
French,
a lot for
but
one
that's
game.
Fucking crazy. As far as I've played, Baldur's Gate 3 has been an incredible game, and it is very refreshing.
Squirrel might be the single most adorable creature you can recall in all your stunted memory.
Okay, I have a weird, it's literally non-issue, but I'm not seeing why that many people would play the game. Like, I can see why people would rate the game the high. I'm playing it right now and it's fantastic. But for me, it feels a bit of a niche kind of game because it's very, like, D&D inspired and all that with the rolls and stuff. So I don't see why, like, that insane amount of people are playing the game, how they found it all. Maybe a lot of people just trying it out because they hear it's good, but then maybe dropping it because they found out it's not for them or something like that. But I don't know. It's just a bit weird. I find it a bit weird, but I don't really have an issue with it at all. People play what they want.
It would be ever so twee if it were climbing a tree.
Twee?
Twee?
Take on such terrifying foes.
No studio is more deserving of...
Wait, why did that happen? I don't think I've ever seen that squirrel. But, it was the journal update, The Urge, is that what it's the Dark Urge man? From the beginning?
This
okay.
Kind of praise than Larian, who has toiled in the mines for far too long. But we're not reviewing the game today. Instead, I want to focus on this small pocket of contrarians still holding out at Helm's Deep. I want to talk about this IGN.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna read it. Like a lot of people, I'm deeply excited about what the lovely folks at Larian accomplished with Baldur's Gate 3, but I want to gently, preemptively push back against players taking that excitement and using it to apply criticism or raised standards of RPGs going forward. 1 out of 10. You cried for 10 posts, Twitter posts, whatever, X posts. This is a great thread about why using a singular game to set expectations for everyone developing titles in a genre isn't useful and instead foolhardy. I kind of agree that you can't compare every game to, like, the same game. Sure. But there's no need to cry about it. People will compare always. It's always been a case where people compared one thing to another thing. I've done that with the games that have pretty much nothing to do with each other. Just because, like, I'll see one good game and then one bad game and I'll compare them in some way. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect your game development in any way. Like, any of your state. Also, it started on July 8th. Jesus. Like, a month before the full release. Alright.
Still holding out at Helm's Deep. I want to talk about this IGN video. Baldur's Gate 3 is causing some developers to panic. And
is that what it is? They panic?
It's pretty good. Wait, is this IGN? Are you sure? It's
Oh, yeah.
with great takes and actual insight and commentary.
I think that it was the same thing in also, that's a spoiler. I don't know what that is. I think I watched a critical video on the developers crying about it, and there wasn't much detail. I'm not sure if I finished the video, but he did mention a good IGN article.
Industry and not just giving away 9 out of 10 scores to every new release.
Developers should be looking at what Baldur's Gate 3 did and trying to replicate where they can, not jumping up to defend games that are cramming in practices that fans are getting fed
Yes,
up with.
that's what I'm saying.
But there's this sentiment going around that Baldur's Gate 3 it's just an unreasonable standard for AAA studios to meet. So we're going to talk about that, because ladies and gentlemen, the companion...
Okay, I will agree with that on one simple thing. Because the game was developed in a kind of a unique way. There's a lot of games that are in early access and being developed like that, and then while they release it and then start patching it, like adding new content and stuff, they would listen to what players say and then make the game on what players say and what players want. And that's how this game came to be. I think it released for the first time, like the very early version, in 2020, which is 3 years ago at this point. And that's kind of... with the indie developers, that happens like all the time, relatively. Like maybe they just release the game and they don't listen to players and just do their own thing, but want to see, like, use players as kind of beta testers and stuff, which is kind of fine, I guess. But Larian did listen to players and they added stuff that players wanted and get rid of stuff that players didn't want, while also like balancing and doing normal development stuff. And usually AAA game studios don't do that. So they will release the game at full release at any point, and then they will patch stuff. They probably would listen, like something like No Man's Sky. Is that... I guess it is AAA. Even if... I forgot the developer's name. Hello Games. Weren't that known before that happened, but the game was kind of published by Sony. So it's whatever. I'm saying that there are cases where developers do listen even after full release, but usually they don't, and they just patch games of bugs like after the actual release, and maybe occasionally do add stuff, but not necessarily that players asked for, just the things that they wanted the game to have. So this is kind of a race standard because a lot of players found things very convenient because a lot of other players bought the game early and told developers that that thing would be convenient. So it is a bit of a race standard, but it's a stretch. It's still not a good take. I don't know.
...in Baldur's Gate 3 are an irresistible thirst trap.
I mean, yeah, the devs agree.
Luckily for me, I can resist their temptations and quench my thirst with Air Up, the sponsor of today's video.
The hell is
Have
that?
you ever wanted to drink plain water but have it taste like flavored?
Oh,
Well, now
it's
you
that
can.
thing I've
Air
heard.
Up has
Yeah.
a specially designed water bottle that
I've seen
flavors
it.
water through scent alone.
Being sponsored.
If you're someone who doesn't drink a lot of water during
Being
the
as
day,
a
you get
sponsor
bit
on someone else's
dehydrated,
video.
or you're worried about artificial sweeteners and extra sugar, this is the perfect solution for you. The pods are also super easy to activate. You can just pull up when you want flavor and push down if you want normal water. It's also great if you want to cut back on soda. We all crave sugar, and this is one of those really cool science tricks that can help you lessen your sugar intake. So go order your special Air Up water bottle
I don't
today
think I can.
using the link in the description.
Mr.
and
Act.
comment. And don't forget to use the code
Mr.
ACTMAN
Math.
to get 15% off your entire purchase. And thank you, Air Up, for sponsoring this video.
And now for something completely different.
Ever since the days of Horse Armor and Oblivion, parts of the video game industry have gotten progressively greedier as time goes on. It's something that a lot of gamers are getting increasingly tired of. So naturally, as Baldur's Gate 3 was about to come out, we all wondered what the catch would be. Are there gonna be any dumb microtransactions? No. There are no in-game purchases in our game. We believe in providing a complete and immersive gaming experience without the need for additional purchases. Enjoy the game to its fullest without any additional costs or microtransactions.
I don't believe it!
Like, without anything. But there is a deluxe version of the game, or deluxe update to the game, which adds a couple of customization things, I think. But other than that, yeah.
This can't be right. Is this the prince who was promised? Well, the game's got to be fucking terrible then. We've gotten to a point where it feels like in the AAA gaming space, like outside of Nintendo, the idea of...
Also, another thing, which is me crying about something, but another thing is that I don't know the game's price, like in the US and in the normal countries, unlike my own. If it's $60, I think it's fair. It fully deserves it, especially after full release. Maybe not in the beginning, early access or whatever. But on the full release right now, definitely worth $60. But there are two additional things. First of all, they're still selling it in Russia, which a lot of devs don't, which is fantastic. I appreciate it a lot. And the second one is that it has regional prices, which also not all developers use. This, I don't know, Larian skyrocketed, I think, at least in my eyes, as being one of the best game devs out there. Maybe whenever they make Baldur's Gate 4 or whatever the next game is gonna be, maybe I'll be one of those people who will buy the game on the beginning of early access and then just play it patch to patch or whatever, update to update. I don't know. I feel like it could be deserved.
Video games being complete at release and just a one-time purchase, that idea is almost extinct. Even games that are just supposed to be single player can be completely broken at release. Well, with ethics like this, Larian, it's no wonder some game devs don't want it to become the new standard. Nah, just keep pounding those microtransactions in. Just keep shoveling that crap in there. You know, my first reaction is...
I don't want new standard to be big AAA companies release the game, a little bit of the game as an early access that move on through years. I kind of like having the game, maybe instead, like, let's say the game releases today in early access, and then in 3 years it's finished completely. I'd rather just see the game in 3 years when it's completely done and it's released for the first time. Maybe I'm in minority, I don't know, but I would prefer that. However, listening to players is good. It's always good. It's not customers always right kind of thing, which is also not correct. But if there is like a majority thing that people want or don't want, maybe you should listen to that, not single-handedly thing.
Is when a new game comes out, where are the slot machines? How can I gamble more money? I think the industry deserves a game like Baldur's Gate 3, and we deserve a developer like Larian. The biggest problem with microtransactions and in-game purchases is that it always affects the core gameplay, usually in a negative way. Sometimes companies end up implementing anti-player design to then charge the players to make the game better, less tedious, or more customizable. Think about how Halo Infinite took away your ability to choose your own colors in order to sell that back to you. Like try to imagine Baldur's Gate 3 as a live service game with a battle pass. Jesus Christ. Okay, well now
I mean, it's single player.
Ways to provide continuous
I don't know if there are single player
so
games with battle passes.
Easily copy and pasted content and quests for new seasons. You know, how do players unlock tiers in the battle pass? How do you incentivize them to spend more money? What do you put in the battle pass to make it worth completing? On and on the questions go. You see, without a live service or a battle pass, Larian doesn't have to mold and shape the game to fit that puzzle. All they had to do was focus on making the best video game possible, and I think they've done a bang-up job.
They did, but I think it is... I could be wrong, but I don't think there are battle pass games, single-player games. Like in multiplayer, you can do easily add the battle pass, neither or not. that's a norm, sadly, at this point. But the single-player games, I don't know. Then why would you buy BioBlast if it's like customization stuff in single player? Sure, there is co-op in it, but it's like with friends. Do you really care that much? In multiplayer, it makes a little bit more sense, I guess.
In-game purchases is you now have to take content out of the game that could have been unlocked by simply playing it, and you now have to resell it.
I guess
right?
is Diablo 4
Larian's games stand out as RPGs
mostly single player and co-op?
Filler or fluff.
Maybe
Quests
that,
aren't
I don't know.
handled like a checklist of chores and activities to just keep you busy for no other reason. But let's go into this topic of Baldur's Gate 3 being so unbelievably good that nobody else can make a game this good ever. Please, please, please put some thought into it before you proclaim this is what AAA gaming should be moving forward. 6 years and 400 plus people with insane funding due to the IP having given BG3 a big boost. It's truly unrealistic to expect this on a regular basis.
Really? Oh my god, 6 years and 400 people with insane funding due to the IP. What about, like, BioWare's next game? Let's say it's gonna be Mass Effect. It's a giant IP, probably bigger than Baldur's Gate was. Andromeda shook it up a bit, even if I like it. A lot of people didn't. But it's still a big IP, and I think BioWare is a bigger company. Shouldn't we expect it? 400 people isn't even that much for a AAA company. There are companies with thousands of workers that could easily put a lot of hours into the game. Like 6 years and 400 people. The game probably was possible to make with in like 3 years with 800 people, right? What if your company has over 1,000 people? It's a lot of stuff. I feel like even the fact that it doesn't have microtransactions and probably never will, who knows? I don't think they're gonna go back on their word or anything, but who knows what's gonna happen? Maybe it'll be bought out by someone. But no microtransactions. That just gives it more points. Like, that's why it became the most rated game on OpenCritic or whatever. I already forgot. But it doesn't have microtransactions or battle passes or anything like that. That gives it probably 10 points above any other game that does have something like stupid like that for a single player game specifically.
And then some guy from Larian came out of the woodwork and was like, "What funding?" Just to be clear, Larian didn't receive funding from Wizards of the Coast to use the Dungeons and Dragons IP. Quite the opposite. They paid a licensing fee to use it. There are like standards and practices they have to follow.
I wasn't focusing on the funding part of the whatever the tweet said, because I don't know at all. Maybe they were. I don't know if Larian is an independent company owned by someone who was funding them. No idea.
So it's even more encumbering than just making a new game based on an IP they already own, which makes it even more impressive. Then he goes on to double down after being called out. Clearly funding wasn't the right choice of words here.
Sure.
Replace that with budget, knowing that an IP with the legacy of this one is going to sell. What? This just perplexes me.
It's just the same thing.
The Dungeons and Dragons IP? Because most people associate that with the tabletop board games. Are you talking about the Baldur's Gate IP?
I think it's about Baldur's Gate.
Game I heard
but
about Baldur's Gate was Dark
it's
Alliance
not big.
2 in 2004. I reckon
that's how old it was,
right? Prior to this, hadn't heard of Larian Studios and had never heard of Baldur's Gate before. What's also funny about this tweet...
I've heard of Baldur's Gate before. I've never played it because I didn't know when the games were out and stuff, and 2004 sounds like not that much of a fun time. I could be wrong, obviously. A lot of games still hold up from like that era or even older than that. But who knows? What I'm saying is I've heard of Baldur's Gate. I've heard of Larian because of Divinity. I've never played Divinity, but that game has been out for a while, and it was quite big. But there is no giant IP. Like, it's not like I heard about Baldur's Gate on every corner when I walked around. Like, nothing happened.
And the situation in general is that people are proclaiming this isn't...
Doesn't even matter if Baldur's Gate 2 was huge. it's been almost 20 years. Like, Legacy on Cell allowed the ability to create something exemplary, which is awesome. My opinion doesn't change though. Of course not.
What's so funny about this tweet and the situation in general is that people are proclaiming this isn't what AAA gaming should be. Yet another game recently came out that also had 6 years of development, a team 22 times bigger than Larian, with
that's what I was talking about.
That made $7.5 billion last year. And yet nobody is saying that game is creating an unrealistic standard. Why is that? Why is that?
Because it is realistic.
The people, the means,
releasing a shit game is quite easy.
You should strive for greatness. I don't understand
Yeah.
why people
I
think
don't
otherwise.
understand either.
You know, what are they actually thinking? Don't let this become the new standard because we can't make games that good. I think it's pretty clear what the difference in priorities is between like Larian and Blizzard. Blizzard is like trying to make money, and Larian knows they're gonna make money if they just make a good video game.
Yeah,
when you're at that
that's
level,
like
you
the
don't have to try
great
to make money. Just make a good product. Like a lot of people,
mindset
I'm
to
deeply
have.
excited about what the lovely folks at Larian accomplished, but I want to preemptively push back against players taking
That's the
that
one I read
excitement
before.
and using it to apply criticism or a raised standard to RPGs going forward. Wouldn't it be great if Bethesda held this standard to Fallout 76? Wouldn't that have been great? What are you trying to say? Stop complaining
Fuck
about
Fallout 76. It's not a good comparison because it's a multiplayer game. Right? But like to Fallout 4? Or at least maybe after the fact to the next game. Is it Fallout 5? I don't remember what they're working on. Is it Elder Scrolls? I don't know. There was some news about it, but I don't remember. Whatever's the next big RPG is from Bethesda, maybe they'll look at Baldur's Gate and like, we should make something like that. Something not like isometric camera walking around turn-based combat. Just something that feels alive. Something that people would like. The main point of your career as a developer, because you directly get paid because people buy your product. I guess that's maybe in everything in the world, but nonetheless, people have to like the game in order to enjoy it, in order to pay more. And more people enjoy the game, more people will know about the game, more people will like the game. And it's kind of like a pyramid scheme kind of thing that a person likes it, tells it to friends, they tell it to friends, the friends. It's a pyramid scheme. Everything is a pyramid scheme.
Game developers that get away with releasing half-baked shitty games just accept bad trends and shitty practices amongst the industry.
Oh, is that people buying accidentally?
PC
Battle
game
Pass?
of all time not raise the standards. This is not a new baseline for RPGs. This is an anomaly. Trying to do the same thing the same way, especially without the same advantages, could kill an entire group of studios.
What same advantages? What advantage Larian had over any other company? Amount of people? We established it's not that big. 400 people is at like the best in average amount, but I think, I don't know, in my head 400 people isn't that big for a AAA company, not average. I feel like average would be closer to 1,000 or something. Can I actually find that out? Average, alright. Average AAA company size. How many people work on a AAA game? Team size. The production team for AAA video games are huge, with at least 50 to 100 employees working on it. For instance, at Ubisoft, AAA game development involved 400 to 600 staff for open world games, split across multiple locations and countries. So 400 is kind of an average. Maybe a lot of times from 3 to 10. That's too many developers. That's not what I asked. Oldschoolgamers.com. Can a single person not? No. How many? No. Can I just? Not American Automobile Association Wikipedia. That's definitely not what I'm saying. That's 2014. Like, that's also American Automobile Association. There's a lot of those. Whatever. Let's take the first thing as it is. Something like what did he say? 22 times the Blizzard is size. Obviously, like, not everyone at Blizzard worked at or in the making of Diablo, because they have World of Warcraft, they have Overwatch, they have is that it? Maybe Heroes of the Storm, some other stuff. There are multiple projects, but like, let's say there are 5 projects, so we'll divide. Okay, he said 22 times, which would be what, 8,800 people. Let's say 4 projects, too easy division, so it's 2,200 people per project. It's an insane amount of people. But still, not a new baseline for RPGs is an anomaly. Yeah, not because the game is good, that's not an anomaly, but because the developers are going to be money hungry and make the game with the battle pass or the customizations stuff, microtransactions is what I'm saying. Developers will go that route rather than put more time and effort into an actual game instead of putting it into microtransactions. But the thing is, trying to do the same thing in the same way, no one asks you to. No one is asking you to do it in the same way, in the same thing. We want Baldur's Gate 3 from Blizzard, from Bethesda, the same game from different developer. No one asks to do that. Just make the game that is on the same level. Like, it doesn't have to be in every single thing. Just put effort into it. Put the same amount of effort, and then the games would be great. But you'd rather put the effort, the same effort Larian put into developing games, you put into making a tweet line thread. A thread just crying how it's too hard to make games. Oh, fucking course it is. Could kill an entire group of studios. No. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't kill Blizzard, it wouldn't kill Ubisoft, it wouldn't kill Bethesda, anything, any other huge developing company. It's not gonna kill. Like, if you moved on from Baldur's Gate 3, like, looking at something like Sony, well, at least it's like a publisher, but they're in-house companies that make, like Insomniac, that make Ratchet & Clank and Spider-Man games. Those are fantastic. They put effort into them. And I don't know if there are microtransactions in them or not. I don't think there are. Like, for the first Spider-Man, there were DLCs. I don't think Miles Morales had any DLCs. But there isn't, like, much outside the game. You get pretty much the full thing. And I think DLCs are fine. I don't know if I'm in my minority on that as well. I don't have ideas. But I'm fine with DLCs that add additional, like, content later down the line. Maybe it would be better to, instead of making DLCs, to put effort into making a new game instead, start sooner. So hours that you put into DLCs would go into the sequel or whatever, or a spin-off, whatever you want. But if you don't want to do that, if there's not enough, just make a DLC, whatever. It's just, I don't know.
What advantages? The advantage of talent, hard work, foresight, uncorrupted morals? These are things Larian has and all these other studios can easily attain. Baldur's Gate 3 is not an anomaly. It didn't just spring out of the ground. This isn't Larian's first game. They've been making top-down RPGs for over 20 years. Baldur's Gate 3 is simply the culmination of all that work, of all they have learned, on an engine they've been working on for many, many years. Baldur's Gate 3
actually, speaking of Bethesda, and making the games in the same way, like, Starfield is coming out soon, and it's the same engine that they use since, like, Oblivion or whatever. Like, they've been using it for about 20 years. They've been making the same, not the same type of game, but, like, the game's it's the same engine. They should know it exactly how it works. They made Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout 3, 4, and 76, and New Vegas. Almost forgot. And now Starfield. if we look at Baldur's Gate 3, how they've been working the same way, like on the similar games, Bethesda's Starfield should be amazing. And I really hope it is. It's still Bethesda. There's still problems. There's gonna be problems. There's definitely gonna be problems because the engine isn't that good to begin with. But like every next game, if you make it like in a similar way, it should be better than the last, shouldn't it? But for some reason, I feel like Fallout 3 was good, and then New Vegas was better, and I think Skyrim was better overall. If we talk about the game mechanics maybe and just how the engine feels, and overall itself, like this similar mechanics of obviously not, I don't know, the setting and stuff. It should culminate. And let me finish. And then after Skyrim, there was Fallout 4, which wasn't like on the same level as Skyrim, and then 76, which wasn't in the same, which still isn't in the same level as Fallout 4 even. And then Starfield should be a culmination of everything you gathered, your experience on making games like that, and then your experience on working with that engine. It should be Baldur's Gate 3 of Bethesda on the technicality level. Will it be? I'm afraid to say that it's probably not. But I do hope. I like the space setting. I'm sucker for those, please.
Combination of a series or genre in the same way that Elden Ring and Smash Bros. Ultimate were. These aren't anomalies. These are really good games made by competent studios with a clear vision that have worked tirelessly to
those are like kind of good examples too. If we kind of change stuff, like fighting games, there's like the Mortal Kombats that then every next game feels better, at least in my opinion. I think 9 was great, and then 10 was better, and then 11 was better, and 1 seems fantastic. We'll see how it is going to be. And then if you go to something like Dark Souls or From Software that made Demon Souls, Dark Souls trilogy, and Bloodborne, and then Elden Ring, Elden Ring is a culmination of everything they've worked so hard on. I said hard on. But there is a reason why Baldur's Gate 3 is good. They kind of... There is a phrase, Nabili Ruku, in Russian, that they got the muscle memory to make the game because they worked in the same kind of way. It's... I don't know, it's normal. Stop crying about it. Congratulate people and work harder. Maybe make some competition. I don't know, instead of crying that, oh, it's too good, we can't do that. Well, no one's gonna buy it then. And then you're gonna cry that people don't buy your games because they're, I don't know, racist, sexist, or whatever you're gonna cry about, or hateful in some sort of way, toxic, maybe, I don't know.
Affect their craft. They are efficient and
releasing Apology on the first day of release.
Building upon what they did last. Larian is super familiar with the engine used to make this game. The controls
yes, that's what I'm saying.
Original Sin 2. So much of the base work was already done years prior. But unlike Divinity Original Sin 2, one of the craziest advances is that apparently all of the scenes have been mocapped. Whereas in original
they look
Sin 2,
mock-up.
you just had to imagine what characters were doing. Again, it's a pretty funny comparison because that's the same type of storytelling Diablo 4 is doing. And then you look at Baldur's Gate 3 and it's just like, wow. But if you think about it, conceptually speaking, the older Smash Bros. Characters' movesets are pretty solid. And most of them didn't need any massive overhauls when it came time to make Ultimate. But you get what I'm saying? These studios work smarter. They don't settle for re-releasing the same game every year or tearing down the foundation and rebuilding it every 3 years. So that's why these games seem so impressive. Because to a lot of people, they haven't played Larian games. They haven't experienced these
like I haven't
before. So it feels like it comes out of nowhere. I can't.
But I've always wanted to play D&D.
Whenever a game disrupts the industry and delights players beyond expectations, it absolutely raises industry and genre standards, regardless of the why and how. Well said. We should celebrate landmark titles like this.
Yes, we should celebrate this.
Complacency, and once the profits start rolling in, you really see people's true nature. Do they want to do as little work as possible for the maximum amount of money? Do they still have the same passion? Does a guy with 1 million subs still have the same passion for his craft as a guy with 1,000. You know what I mean? Larian serves as a very good example to other developers, I would say. This is a great thread about why using a singular game to set expectations for everyone developing titles in a genre isn't useful and is instead foolhardy. This is one of those statements that, like, 5 years from now is gonna be looked back on as really fucking stupid. It's gonna be looked
It's
back
already
on as
stupid.
those people when cars were
What do you mean
first coming
5
out, they were like,
years?
cars aren't gonna replace horses. That's foolhardy. People that
Yeah.
cling to the old ways when something objectively better comes along, right? You could probably say
If
the
Baldur's
same
Gate
thing
3
about
changes
Mario
the game
64 when
scene,
that
game
came out and
developing scene, it would be
3D games and
amazing.
platformers. I'm sure there was a bunch of people back then saying, "Well, Mario 64 is an anomaly. You can't expect other studios to be able to accomplish this. You can't apply
Yeah,
this standard
probably.
to other platformers. It's not fair."
That's not fair at all.
Here's the thing, right? Wouldn't a company or a person genuinely passionate about their craft want to compete with Baldur?
That's what I said!
Competition
Make a
breeds
competition out of it!
creates better products, and we all win in the end. Complacency seems to be what some of these devs are advocating for, or at the very least admitting they work for a studio that doesn't prioritize making.
Okay, I thought he was reading something and I couldn't find. The one or two devs they were quoting were talking about how you shouldn't be expecting every RPG game studio to be making games on the scale of Baldur's Gate 3, because not every studio has the time, effort, or manpower to pull it off, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to say, by the way. No one is asking to do the same scale, it's just on your scale. Like saying not the same, not every studio has the time, effort, or manpower. Don't do it on the same scale. Put the same time, effort, and manpower on this scale down to the scale of your game. It's not a hard concept to grasp. Obviously, if you're like an indie developer, maybe, or a AAA developer that has, what did I read, 40 to 100 people, you don't need to make a game as big as Baldur's Gate 3, like mock up everything and all that stuff. There is no need to do that. No one expects you to do it. No one, or, well, not no one, there's probably people who will, but like the majority, the actual people you should be care about, you should care about, they're not gonna expect that. Like from studio like Larian, that a lot of, like probably a majority of people never heard of, or at least never played their games. Something this big coming out, it's insane. It should be celebrated. It's an amazing achievement. And then again, going to something like Bethesda, Blizzard, the companies that people have heard about and probably played their games in the past, and they come out with just horseshit of a game. Why? You do have the manpower, and probably the time and effort. If you would actually put it into the game, you could make something like that. But then someone like people who make Hades, I forgot the developers who actually made Hades. I fucking love Hades, and I can't wait for Hades too. Actually, Hades went the same way as Baldur's Gate 3 did, which is that it came out in early access and then was updating it slowly and surely until the full game release came out. And no one would expect them to make Hades 2 on the sides of Baldur's Gate. Like, I know it's different genres and stuff, but people aren't gonna expect it, even if they were making some kind of an RPG instead of a roguelite, whatever, godlike things. If they were making an RPG, I just don't know what kind of example to bring on of a smaller studio making an RPG game. But they're not gonna expect it. They would know you can still make a great, fantastic game that is smaller. Like, that's scale isn't the reason why the game is successful. I don't know.
For.
Crying about it doesn't help in any way.
Doesn't prioritize making good products as much as they should. I get what they're trying to say.
It's been 40
right?
minutes of me
Don't
crying
expect
about
every
them
quarterback
crying.
to be as good as Tom Brady, but every quarterback should try to be as good as Tom Brady. I
Yeah.
don't know a single game dev who has conveyed this sentiment about BG3. Instead, I've heard devs ask folks not to use the great things achieved by this team as a weapon to use against other devs. Now, this is the actual argument I think some of them are trying to present, right? Remember how obnoxious the PlayStation fanboys would get when they compared every video game ever made to The Last of Us 2? Yeah, nobody should be doing that with Baldur's
Yes,
Gate
I
3.
agree.
The one or two devs they were quoting
And
were
majority
talking
will
about how you
not,
shouldn't
but
be expecting every RPG studio to be making games
no,
on a
he read
scale
it
of
anyway.
BG3 because not every studio has the time, effort, or manpower. Yes, but some studios do have the time
Exactly.
and manpower. They just don't put in
They
the
have
effort.
more
Nobody is
manpower
saying
than
Johnny
Larian.
Game Developer and his 2 college dorm roommates should make a 100-hour masterpiece RPG as their first game. Nobody's
Yeah.
saying that. I don't think people are saying that BG3 is the new standard, but rather it should raise everybody else's standards because
Yeah.
a lot of other developers really fucking down in the ground, man.
I think that's the spoiler for my next big quest.
Fallout 76,
Shit.
Bethesda. This is why Starfield has such high expectations behind it, and why it will be
Yes.
such a disappointment if that game turns out to be a glitchy, bug-ridden disaster. So many of these other companies have the exact same tools and resources at their disposal.
Yeah, and
as
the
Larian. They just
advantages.
make
Like,
terrible products. So
yeah,
this is what
which
AAA
too.
studios should strive to achieve. And it's fine if they don't. But if they try, then they'll probably make a good RPG. Cyberpunk is a prime example of why everyone's
Like,
saying
as he said, it should raise the expectations. Not everything will be on the same level as Baldur's Gate 3. But maybe if they come close to it, that would be fine. More than fine, it would be fantastic. You don't need to be there. You don't need to be at the very tippity top at the best rated game. But maybe you should strive to be. Maybe if you try, you will be the second best rated game. How much of an achievement would that be? I don't know, man.
standards should be higher. It's a wake-up call for a lot of these other developers, I hope. Larian has had such an underdog story that like it's so cathartic to see them succeed because 10 years ago they were raising funds for Divinity Original Sin
damn.
through a Kickstarter program. This
I
is
think
a
I've heard of it,
studio
but forgot
that
about
risked
it.
bankruptcy in the name of quality. So at the end of the day, I think a lot of gamers have also woken up when they see what we've been missing for a long time, or at least what has become so rare in the industry, a game released by a studio that has no intentions of selling you something beyond that initial purchase. A game that works and is complete at launch. Baldur's Gate 3 is just an amazing game, and we should all be celebrating it. It is the prince who was promised, and hopefully it sends shockwaves across the industry. Should we compare
I hope
every
so,
new
yeah, I
RPG
do hope
that comes
so.
out to Baldur's Gate 3? Probably not. Well, let's hope every new RPG in the AAA space tries to be as good, and that those companies try to be as pro-consumer as Larian. But thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did.
Okay. Could you imagine the world? Like the perfect outcome from this underdog Larian story, from this amazing sales that Baldur's Gate 3 has produced, of everything that came out here. Like everything surrounding Baldur's Gate 3, the game itself. I'm not talking the controversies or whatever, people crying. That some companies, like huge companies, like EA, maybe, like obviously it's not gonna happen. I don't think EA is gonna change their ways no matter what's happening. But the perfect outcome would be that they would see the game with no microtransactions being sold in millions of copies across every platform, and then think like, oh, maybe we shouldn't put time and effort into microtransaction. Maybe we actually should put that time, effort, hours, manpower, whatever the buzzword you want to use, into an actual game, into our actual core of the game. And then maybe, just maybe, we'll sell as much. Or maybe more. I'm saying EA because I'm really passionate about Mass Effect. It's probably... Not probably, it's my favorite game series. And the fact that it's made by BioWare, who's owned nowadays by EA, it's like a dagger into my heart. Because of, like, immediately Mass Effect 3 and then Andromeda, which I still like the games, but there could have been much better. Easily. But EA happened. And if they look and see that you don't have to microtransaction everything, sure, make your... No, not sure, don't make anything with microtransactions and battle passes and stuff. But just know that if you actually make a game without them, people will still buy it. People will still enjoy it. You will still get your paycheck. Like, it's still gonna be great. What an underdog story is it gonna be if EA changes their ways? Probably one of, if not the most greedy company. If that happens, everyone else will change, I feel like, because they are on the tippity top of greediness. I don't know. I made this video 3 times the size. Well, this discussion thing 3 times the size of the original video. And I hope people will tell me their thoughts in the comments and stuff. I don't know. I want to see what people think. Because the situation is insane, while at the same time being an amazing for game dev. Like, maybe finally the era of microtransactions is over. Or, like, it's getting there, maybe. It's sunset. I almost said dawn, but that's the opposite of that. Maybe it's sunsetting. Maybe it's going away. It could be slowly, but in, like, the next 5 years, who knows? Maybe there will be more games like Baldur's Gate. Where the devs are actually gonna give a shit, finally, about the core gameplay mechanics. Just the core of their game, the story and everything. Just the game itself. Not how to suck the wallets of the players dry. You know what I mean? Because there are games that are, like, do have kind of microtransactions, but are still good games. For example, Genshin Impact. And, like, recently released Honkai Star Rail. Those games those are gacha games, so they obviously have microtransactions. But from the beginning, they're, first of all, free to play. So maybe you don't want to pay money for the game. You don't have to in any way. But even without ever entering gacha mechanics, like anything like that, you can still enjoy the game because the world they've built in those games, they actually put effort into them. And that's great. When the games like that were probably a few years ago, let's say 5 years ago, gacha games were just like, oh, it's a mobile game that you pay for the PNGs of characters and stuff and play with them, and without them you can't progress and stuff, or like whatever the case could have been. While nowadays, like, a huge open world, especially recently, there was a new update for Genshin that even increased the size of the world. Again, it's an enormous game. And it's free. You don't have to pay, and then there's a chance that you'll pay for gacha. No, it's a free game where you can pay for gacha if you want. But it's not necessary in any way. You can actually use gacha for free and stuff like that. Sure, it's like a casino thing. What would the word be? Oh no, the words are escaping me. Like the casinos, the roulette, there is a word for it. But no, nonetheless, you could put the only thing I want is for the developers to put more effort into the game itself. That's it. If there are microtransactions, Fuck you. I don't know. I give up. I don't know. Thank you everybody for watching me rant over Actman ranting over the people ranting. I appreciate it a lot, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye. Have a great life, because one of us has to.